Welcome to the original SEC versus Big Ten podcast. Good morning, good day. This is Ron, live in the Oakland, California. Yes, sir. We're here excited. We're here. We're here. Game week is on, baby. And the college polls have been dropped. The predictions have been dropped. We're seeing everyone doubt teams. We're seeing everyone hype teams. We're seeing a lot of hype in week one. There's going to be a lot of shutting the mouths. Only a few games. So today we're diving in actually the week of the games of the week. We only discuss what's going on in the SEC and the Big Ten. That includes USC. That includes UCLA. That includes Oregon. That includes Washington. And that includes Texas and Oklahoma. But none of those teams are playing a worthy game. So this is the downfall of this specific show, is that we're only focused on challenging games. And paper pop this. But out of all the games this weekend, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only 8 games where the favorite is less than 20 points. So not many challenging games, but we're going to dive into it. Big Ten opens up at Big Ten play and on Thursday as Utah, the Pac-12 reigning back-to-back champion, open up play again out of conference. They host Florida this weekend, and they go on the road with Baylor. There's a lot of mystery behind who the quarterback is. But right now, Utah is a 6.5 point favorite in this game. My money says take Florida, take the over, take it all. I think Florida can cover. Florida can win this game outright, and Florida can score points. The new clock is going to present some challenges in the first few weeks before offenses pick up the pace. Learn how to move. Defenses are going to have to be more aggressive in stopping that clock. So those are the two games. Nebraska on the road, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. out here. If you're in the East Coast, it'll be 8 p.m. your time. That's going to be an interesting game. PJ Fleck, one of the better coaches in programs. Minnesota facing the drama they're facing right now. Not as much drama there as there is in Northwestern, but still there is a culture. There's culture questions. And is Minnesota able to maintain the success that PJ Fleck has built over the last few years? We're going to get that kind of answer question, because when you open up the game against a division rival, it just amps up the season that much more. And you don't know what you're getting out of Nebraska year one under Matt Rule, but we can assume that they're going to be physical. We're going to assume that they're going to run the ball, and the defense is going to be about stopping the run. How well they're doing it, we're going to see. How well are they going to execute? We're going to see. We should expect a lot of follies. We should expect struggles. Might be a sloppy game, but it's Thursday. It's opening season, and we're excited. Won't be able to catch much of that game. I'll put it on the side because the main event of that evening is my Florida Gators going on the road. They've already flown out today to Dallas. They fly out to Utah tomorrow, avoiding the storms going on in the west coast of Florida. But this is a game where we don't know who's playing for Utah, and 99% of America and the world know nothing about these Florida Gators. So we assume that Utah will be good as usual, but they have a history as well as starting the season pretty slow. And although they haven't lost but maybe one game since 2018 or 2 games since 2018 at home, the problem what I see that is they didn't really play too many games. They're the most SEC caliber program in the Pac-12 when it comes to running the ball and stopping the run, playing physical, aggressive defense and playing aggressive offense. They are the most SEC caliber in the Pac-12, but Utah isn't even a top 8 opponent for Florida. And this game should be dominated by Florida, and I'll be really, really hurt and distressed if Florida finds a way to lose this game, which shouldn't happen. But we really think that Billy Napier is setting the tone for a very successful season. What is a very successful season according to what we've seen in the last few years and the turnaround and the rebuild? 9 wins is the minimum floor for a successful season. 8 wins is a good standard season in a rebuild for year 2. To build off going into year 3, which is something a lot of programs can't say that they've done recently, but some have. So Thursday, those are 2 slobber knockers, and we're going right into the games of the week here. Saturday, we have quite a few games on Saturday. Not many that are worth watching, but there's going to be keep an eye on, see how teams are projecting. I'm really interested in see Toledo versus Illinois. Illinois is one of my sleepers to contend in that division with Big Ten, with Nebraska, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois. Those 4 teams should rise to the cream of the crop of that division and challenge Michigan in the Big Ten championship game this year. We're not mentioning, if we don't mention your program today, that means you better win. And the only way you get mentioned Monday about your Saturday or Sunday or Thursday game is because you lost to food. Food ate you. You're alligator getting eaten by chickens. Okay, that's what happened. You're a bulldog being eaten by ants. That's what's happened. So Fresno State at Purdue, interesting game. Purdue's only 3.5-point favorite here. Fresno State presents a challenge coming from the West Coast game. I'm really, really interested because I believe Fresno State might be a little battle tested already. So that's going to be a scary game for Purdue. They got to come out. And if I remember right, didn't Fresno State just play USC? It's very hard to play a game when you're playing your first game against a team that's playing their second game. That's what happened to LSU last year. And LSU walked into New Orleans playing their first game against a team in their third year of their program and playing their second game. Didn't end well for them. They still were in the game to the end, and that's what matters. So we're not going to dive long into – there's not many games to dive into, luckily, so we're not going long into this show today. We just want to talk about what are the games that we're looking at and what are the games we're keeping an eye on. Ohio State is going to be an interesting game. They're playing around noon 30 out here in the West Coast, which is usually a 3:30 game in the East Coast. They're opening the season also in Big Ten play, so that's why it's relevant. Even though they're a 30-point favorite against Indiana, we can expect to see some ups and downs. And what we need to see out of Ohio State is, are they running the ball and they stopping a run? I don't care about their wide receivers. I kind of care to see how their quarterback is playing, if he's able to put them in the right plays to execute the offense at a high level, that who's actually the quarterback, will he play the entire game? That's what the most important aspect of watching this game probably will come to. But it's still, it's not a game that's expected to be close, but it's Big Ten play. So what is Indiana now? What do they have on the roster? They're going to show us. They played Ohio State pretty tough over the years, so it is a challenging opening for Ohio State. Are they the Ohio State that's getting into the playoffs by winning the Big Ten? Something they haven't done since 2020. It's been a while, and if you count that season, I don't know, man. That's if you didn't win a national championship, what does that season even matter to you? That's, we're throwing that in the wind. So the game of the day, in my opinion, for Saturday is South Carolina and North Carolina. I believe that's a neutral field. They might be playing in Charlotte where the Carolina Panthers play. Carolina Panthers represented both North and South Carolina. North Carolina is the 2.5-point favorites. Right now, you have to say that South Carolina might be the better team. North Carolina has a better quarterback, might have a more explosive offense. North Carolina does, but this is where we're going to test the measurement of Shane Beamer. How good are you as a coach? Because this is food and technicality. Like losing in North Carolina should never be an option for any SEC team other than Vanderbilt. Like, no, there's only a couple ACC teams you're allowed to lose to. South Carolina, Tallahassee State. This isn't either one of them. It's just North Carolina. To this record, North Carolina hasn't finished the season ranked, I don't know how long, but that's still Mike Norvell's best win. So this is Mike Norvell's best win. It's important for Shane Beamer to establish his dominance on the recruiting trail and say that his development out trumps what Mike Norvell is doing, enter into year three of the Gamecocks program. I think the Gamecocks should win this. They're 2.5-point dogs right now, but I can easily see them winning by 10 or more. This is a game where you could wake up and say, is South Carolina for real or not? This is a game that heads motivation into going into week 3 as they go on the road against Georgia. How strong are they a battle against Georgia? Well, it depends on how strong is their performance in this game. Was it strong enough for a win? That's what we want to see. That's what we have to see. In order to, if we don't see that, then South Carolina is going down a very narrow path of wins. Because if you're not able to beat North Carolina, can you beat Florida? Can you? Vanderbilt is going to be a tough game. Kentucky, Tennessee is going to be a tough game. Texas A&M is a tough game. Georgia's an automatic loss already. Then Clemson, you're not really sure if you're able to beat North Carolina. Can you beat Clemson? You might be playing better by that time. You might catch them injured. But the likelihood is that this is a motivation killer, momentum killer. Do you have the motivation? Do you have the momentum to fight through these games? Because South Carolina's schedule is not for the meek. Tennessee opens up the season playing Virginia. Food. Virginia's always been food. Cavaliers are food. How Virginia performs, how Joe Milton performs. This is the best warm-up he's going to get before he goes to the swamp. We have to see how he performs. 28-point favorites. Virginia could possibly cover, but Tennessee should win comfortably. Friday night, Michigan State hosts Central Michigan. They're 14-point favorites. This is an in-state battle that could be interesting because Jim McElwain is a very underrated coach. They both head coaches, Mel Tucker and Jim McElwain, have the Saban system somewhat in their program. Not sure how much McElwain has kept a lot of the principles of Nick Saban or not, but he does come from that background and he does run a good football program overall, although he is not fit for a big-time program such as Florida, Georgia, Alabama, LSU. So he is appropriately at Central Michigan. That game could be a little scary for Michigan State. Keep an eye on that. No, not much football that day. So being a 14-point dog on the road in state, a lot of pride, a lot of kids who wanted to be Michigan State players weren't good enough, didn't get that offer. So there's a lot of chip on their shoulder. How strong is this game? Michigan State should roll, but the Spartans are playing game 1. That's an interesting concept. What are we seeing in this game? West Virginia, Big 12 team, they're on the road against Penn State. Interesting dynamic of Pennsylvania with West Virginia, very close in distance. A lot of rivalry, Hill people. You got the Mormons, you got the Mountaineers, a lot of old tribes in the mountains and hills here. And so there's a lot of pride. Penn State is a 20.5-point favorite in this game. They should roll right now, according to the CEM poll. They're number 6 in the country. And can they maintain that? They have to maintain this spread. 21 points, so you drop to South Carolina. South Carolina jumps in front of you. You can't even consider the point if the possibility of Penn State actually losing that game. Their whole Big Ten aspirations are dead in the mud. That's my thinking. At least your playoff aspirations are dead. You can win the rest of the games of the year, but I don't know. You have to win the Big Ten in dominating fashion if you can't pull this game out. So we covered all the games, but the main events of the weekends basically come down 3 games. We covered North Carolina, South Carolina. We touched on Florida, Utah. That game has been touched. I've watched plenty of coverage on it. The fact is that nobody knows anything. Everybody's expecting to see something different than what they know they've seen last year, and they're expecting Florida to continue to suck. There's a lot of people choosing Florida to win 4 games, 3 games, 5 games. People want to see the Gators suck, and this is a game to prove doubters wrong. But the big game of the event is going to happen Sunday, 4:30 p.m. East Pacific time. That's 7:30 Eastern in Orlando. The Florida State-Tallahassee State Seminoles will be hosting at a neutral site in Orlando the Louisiana State Tigers. And this game was a classic last year. I enjoyed every bit of it. Won some money on this game. I told a lot of LSU fans that it's very difficult playing a team in year 1 of a rebuild. It was a rebuild because they had less than 30 scholarship players available to them when Brian Kelly was hired. So going to that game, new coach, never been in the SEC before, brings in a Pac-12 quarterback, first game, starting 2 offensive tackles that are true freshmen. You're playing a team that's played already in week 0, and you're playing your first game. That was a dynamic that just LSU wasn't prepared for, and still yet they fought themselves back into the game. Right now, LSU is a 2.5-point favorite. I would lean LSU to cover, but with Mason Smith being out, that makes the game more of a dynamic mystery. Like, what are we going to see? We don't know. So I'm taking Nebraska to beat Minnesota, by the way. I'm going to take Ohio State to cover against Indiana with the 30-point favorite. I'm taking Penn State to cover against West Virginia. I think they can win that by 4 touchdowns. Rutgers opening up Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon against Northwestern. Rutgers is a 6.5-point favorite. I guess the turbulence in Northwestern has Rutgers as a favorite, so I'm going to go with Rutgers to cover. I think they can win by 10. Michigan State, they should cover, but I would look at that as a possible where they're struggling and Central Michigan looks a little tougher than they appear. Fresno State against Purdue, I would like to see Purdue pull that off. If it's just a 3-point game, that's alarming. Illinois, they play a night game, evening game, hosting Toledo. Only a 9.5-point dog. Defense, I have to see improve. They have the Ole Miss quarterback, Luke Altmaier, that's transferred over there. I have to see what he can do. Hopefully he's learned a lot under Lane Kiffin to be a decent quarterback. And so we have to see how he performs. He's performing against Toledo, which is less than 300 miles. So game on. And we have Florida, Utah. I got the Gators. I got the Gators soundly. I think they're going to win this game soundly. And you call me a homer or whatever. Fuck you. North Carolina. I got South Carolina winning against North Carolina. They should win. If North Carolina wins, fuck South Carolina. LSU. I have them covering over Florida State. If I used to make jokes about Brian Kelly being Elton John's cousin, call him Kells and everything, little Elton. If he loses this game, I'm going back to call him Melton. But right now, he's just Kells. He's the original Kells. Before there was R. Kelly, he was Kells, baby. He's been a head coach that long that his head coaching career has lasted longer than R. Kelly's music career. Okay. And Virginia, 28-point dog with Tennessee. I like to see Virginia cover that, but that's fool's errand to bet on Virginia. Virginia should be trash. They are food. Cavaliers should not have no business winning that game. So if they're able to score and keep that game within 2 possessions, that's a big win and a big loss if you're a Tennessee fan. If you pick that game as a pick 'em to cover, so that's it. That's 4, 8, 12 games between the SEC and the ACC, SEC and the Big Ten this year. Week 1, we're excited about what we will see. And so as we dive into all this, I'm gonna I'm gonna go on my phone real quick and I'm just gonna look up, who is actually. I didn't look up these teams because I was just looking up who's playing who, but I'm gonna look at the Pac-12 real quick and see who actually is playing a decent game. USC plays Nevada. TCU, Colorado ought to be exciting. Oregon plays Portland State. Like Portland State actually has a football team. Washington against Boise State. UCLA against Coastal Carolina might be a challenging game. San Jose State is the team that actually played against USC, not Fresno State. So I'm not really getting why Purdue is covering only 3.5. I wanted to know before the end of the show how wrong I was because I was like, was it San Jose or Fresno? They're not that far from each other. Fresno and San Jose are like an hour from each other. One is just in nicer weather. That's what we have, folks. So take it to the bank, and we'll dive back into this game day and see what's going on. I'm Ron from Oakland, live here in California. Thank you for enjoying the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for your support.